The second statement that's made in this Acts 17, he made everything in it. Again, a very straightforward, simple, very understandable statement. He made everything in it. He made the world and he made everything in it. We are not simply a planet floating around with the other planets. Everything here, everything fits into the purpose it was created. Every plant, animal, sea creature, insect, and man was created by God and placed in its rightful place. One of the things we have to keep in mind in this kind of analyzing and reading and trying to understand scriptures is the divine purpose for which God is doing these things. He has a divine purpose. When he said, let us make man in our image, that was the Trinity speaking, our image. Let us make man in our image. There was a purpose for that. And he formed man and he breathed into him, and man became a living soul with a purpose in mind. And everything that God created and placed into the garden that he had man, prepared for man, everything had its purpose and its rightful place. And things were under control because they were fulfilling the purposes of God. We lost that. Adam and Eve. I would like to shoot Adam and Eve. But sometimes when I look at Adam and Eve, I think, maybe I'm Adam. You see, Adam and Eve, they had this perfect environment. God creates in perfection. Everything God created was perfect. And God created Adam and Eve, and he placed them there, and he said, now you can enjoy everything that you see in this garden. The fruit trees, the flowing river of life. All of this is yours. But then God said to them, I have just one rule. Just one law. That's all. Just one. Don't you think that we would be able to obey one? Just one? I sometimes have to make that personal and say, can I obey just this one rule, just one law? Well, it was just too tempting. That one rule, that one law, don't do this, it was just too tempting. And Satan knows the power of temptation. And he uses it powerfully and effectively. Temptation. He went to them. He went to the lady of the house. And he said to the lady, do you think God really said that? Maybe you misunderstood what God said. What had God said? He said, don't eat of this particular fruit. And that fruit is described as the knowledge of good and evil. Get that in your mind. This is the tree, this is the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Satan had told the woman, God doesn't want you to eat this tree because he knows that you'll become like him. You will become your own God. Wow. Have you ever wondered, why was it that suddenly Adam and Eve sensed that they were naked? They didn't have any clothes. It was, we don't know how long they had lived in the garden before they actually sinned, but they lived that, and suddenly they realized, we don't have any clothes on. That's a terrible realization that you don't have any clothes on. I guess it depends on where you are. You see, they had received knowledge that they did not have before, and it was the knowledge of what is good and what is evil. And they suddenly realized that this is not good because they had taken part of the forbidden fruit. So when God came, as he often did, to walk in the cool of the evening and have fellowship with Adam, Adam was hiding. You know, there's something terrible about guilt. When we have given in to temptation, we've done wrong, the guilt, we want to hide. God, of course, already knew that Adam and Eve had broken the one rule. And as Satan had said, you will become like gods, suddenly they were put in that kind of position. And when the atheists declared that there is no God, they do not believe in a God, that's the position they're putting themselves in of deciding what is right and what is wrong. I am my own God. I decide what is right and what is wrong. And everybody else does. So we got a world of chaos where everyone is deciding what is right and what is wrong. You know, when Moses came along, after Adam and Eve had broken the one law, when Moses came along, he wrote 630 laws. You break one, you got 630 laws. And we're still writing laws today. We can't seem to write enough laws. And when we write the laws, we have to enforce them. So we have armies and we have police forces and we have security people. We have guns, and because somebody broke one law. Are you with me? We are defending and we are defining our faith. Let me tell you something. There's going to come a day when the way that you defend or the way you define your faith is going to be put to the test, and it may cost you your life. People are dying by the thousands throughout this world because of their Christian faith. It's not in the news. They try to cover it up. They try to hide it. But in countries throughout this world, people are giving their lives. They're dying for the Christian faith, what they believe. And who knows whether the day will come when we will have to face that issue, and whether we really believe in the Christian faith will be put to the test. Amen. I like the song. Who was it that sung that in the movie? Amen, 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 amen. Okay, that was long ago. The third thing that Luke states, God does not live in temples built by hands. You know, it amazes me that people could be so foolish as to think God could live in any kind of building. How could the all-powerful, limitless God be restricted to a building and live in that building? No temple can hold God, who was the creator of the universe. Even the temple of the Old Testament, now listen to this, even the temple of the Old Testament only held a limited manifestation of the glory of God called the Shekinah. The temple, it was a tabernacle at first. It was given by God to Moses, and he said, this is exactly how you are to build this, and there is to be a most holy place. But God could not dwell in the most holy place. There was never any intention. He said there will be a manifestation, only a manifestation of my glory, the mercy seat in between the cherubims, the Shekinah, the radiance, the glory of God. Even a temple, a tabernacle designed by God himself for man, could not hold God. It was impossible. He cannot dwell in something made with human hands. What about his dwelling? Can he live in something that's not made by human hands? Interesting question. You see, human hands are limited. We build structures. It's amazing what human hands can do. The structures, the high rises that we build. But we're limited. You know, we really think it is something great that we were able to jump over just a little ways to the moon. We think that's the greatest accomplishment. Do you know, when you look at the universe, the moon is just right there. You could almost jump over there. And we think we've accomplished something great. And we try to go to Mars. We send rockets there, and it takes them forever to get there. And the scientific world just goes crazy. The human limitations of the mind. But what about God dwelling in something that he's made himself? Human hands are not involved. He formed something with his hands. God formed with his hands. Hands here, hands. Human hands, God's hands. With God's hands, he formed a human body. Fashioned it perfectly, fashioning the body. He can only act in perfection, and he perfectly formed the man, and he said, this is our image.